All right.
Greetings and peace, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this. Today, I have the honor and privilege of being joined by my brother from another mother, Jameson Reese, and we will talk about the perspective myself as a Sufi Muslim and brother Jamo from the left-hand path, seeing the world as it is today in its current chaotic state from the left-hand path and the right-hand path. So I would like to begin this with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. And we would like to have this conversation to see where is humanity going from both the left and the right perspective, because in the Sufi point of view, they tell you that no matter which way you take, whether it's this way or that way, it all leads back to the truth, al-haq in Arabic, the primordial source creator. So without further ado, much peace and blessings for my brother Jamo. Thanks for being here.
No problem. And there is a sort of paradox that goes with that in the left-hand path. The left-hand path, what we're doing is we're basically seeing what happens when one continues the trajectory of the separation from the divine.
Mm,
The original sin is the separation from the divine. I can speak from the sort of Jewish or Hebrew perspective of this, where
mm,
before God's creation, um, there was a space that was cleared, and then God created Masukael, which is the dividing light. This created divisions of certain worlds. In this cosmology, there were three failed creations before us. They are Athiel, or Ithiel, Kemetriel, or Chemtiel, and Belial. And these were so the god, their patron god was not satisfied with those creations because those creations rebelled against him. And so the last creation that was created by Masukael, or the dividing light, is we're pretty much the fourth creation.
mm,
Now, what I from the left-hand path am doing is basically seeking to see, all right, so we've already descended from the light. We've already placed distance between us and the creator. What is the ultimate conclusion of this separation? That is my exploration. And I will say whether the creator has created me to do this or not, I am uncertain. What I can say is my free will might be a design that was imposed upon me by the creator itself as an experiment or a test to see what happens when a creation completes the separation process. And that's what we in the left-hand path are doing. Um, This is done by working with a infernal aspect that is known as Azerate, which split off from the original Hebrew God. And Azerate wants to return to the primordial nothingness and does not wish to exist. So through Azerate, we see the 11 kings of Edom, which include Andromelech, Satan, Moloch, Lilith, Baal, or what is it? Salemoth, Baalimoth, basically, to name just, a few of them. Um, we have Belphegor, we have Beelzebub, um, we have Lilith, we have Nahemoth, just to name a few of them. Uh, I'm not sure if I've named them all, but these are also reflections of, and I do have notes which I can look at so that I can give you all of the information. We also know that there are 7 realms which came from creation, and this is according to the Hebrew text. One is Sabael, One is Peliel, Zekunael, Uriel, and we have which basically Zekunael splits off into uh, Yeruriel, and this further splits off into uh, Memimeron, uh, Giriron, Yedideron, Satiriron, Nahiriran, and Hodiniran, and Sephoriran, basically. Um, these are these are basically seven creations, seven worlds, we can say. And I guess with what I'm going to intuit is that within our world, what, I'm not certain as to which world we are in, which one of those seven, but in our world, the precursor to our existence were Itael, Kemetael, and Belial.
Hmm.
Now, Masukael is the Kemetael is the formlessness. Itael is the darkness, and Belial is the emptiness.
Hmm.
And basically, the magician of the left-hand path seeks to use these forces and exceed the tree of the klipot, because the klipoth is like the shadow of the tree of life. And what we're doing is we're working with the tunnels that connect each of those shells, which are the 22 archdemons of the tunnels of Set, to which I have, completed my initiations with each of them, and have created my own grimoire of not realm. What is called the transclepothic void, the
Hmm.
transclepothic abyss.
Understood.
And in doing this, this embodies a complete separation from the divine. Now, two things can occur. The first thing that can occur is when one is completely separated from the divine, what happens is one implodes in, inward, into oneself. And into oneself is still that remnant of that divine spark. And as such, one becomes that divinity through separation. One paradoxically becomes one with that creative source that created it. There's another branch, of course, where instead of where one removes that divinity altogether and becomes as the outer gods. Now, as we know, we have this is a cosmology that Michael Aquino has, has pretty much told our brother Douglas Dietrich is that, this the jealous God, which is of all of us, which would be Allah, Yahweh, or Yeshua, if you will, um, is not the only is not the only one like it. There are other beings that are far alien to our understanding, and these are the outer gods of Howard Phillips Lovecraft. These are the great old ones. This is where we have Yog-Sothoth or Shub-Niggurath, and Azathoth. And now I'd like the listener to note that there's a similarity between the word Azathoth and Azarate, which
Hmm.
is that side that was split from God in the Hebrew cosmology of the Sitra Ashara or the Sitra Akra. And the Sitra Akra is what the left-hand path practitioner ultimately initiates themselves through. And what happens, it just so happens that in the infernal realms, the infernal the infernal is a works with the divine and works with the angelic to create all of creation. So you do not have creation without the infernal. You do not have creation without the divine as well. You do not have creation without the opposites and the gradients in between, which is our realm, the three-dimensional realm, which is separate from the ultimate reality. Now, the reason one chooses the left-hand path is because we think of it like this. Okay, I'm separated from God. So the birth is the first trauma. Birth is the first separation from the divine. Before I was born, there was nothingness, and I was one with God. When I was born into this form, that was the first trauma. I was separated from God, as Iblis was created from Allah. And
Yes.
so now here I am in human form, and I'm expected to work amongst human beings. I'm expected to, in a sense, bow to them. And how can I bow to human beings when I was divine? That is wrong. That is wrong. So I rebel. I do not bow to Adam. I do not bow to the human race around me. Now, in the in the tradition of the Yazidi, the Malek was actually correct in what he did, and he would be the first to be redeemed by God.
Yes.
Now, how that how he goes about the process of that redemption, I do not know. But I suspect that this will be the continual in the left-hand path here in America, at least the Americanized version, instead of being redeemed by Allah, Iblis decides to continue to split off and continues the trajectory of seeing what happens as one moves further and further away from the divine and becomes something other. Now, according to Douglas Dietrich, many of the demons or many of the demons of hell were in actuality the outer gods in disguise, or were these great old ones who were able to sort of how do I say infect the infernal divine, and in doing so spread their influence towards, Allah or Yahweh, if you will. Now, I look at it like this, that this incursion is a sort of push to evolve the divine into something else. So instead of fighting those forces, I, as a practitioner of the left hand path, wish to see where this is going to go. How is the divine going to be reshaped by these outer ones? How will the infernal realms be reshaped by the outer ones? How will Iblis be transformed by the outer ones? Rather than, you know, fighting the 11 Edamic entities, we're using the idea of seeing what happens as if this is one great experiment. And as much this sort of embodies the mindset of Yog-Sothoth of the Howard Phillips Lovecraft mythos, which is a sort which are just like spheres, or in a sense, I'm starting to wonder if these spheres of the Howard Phillips Lovecraft pantheon, which is Yog-Sothoth, might not be a motif for the klipot of the Hebrew tradition, because the klipot are shells, but they are also spheres, much like the Sephiroth, has spheres. So That's just something I'm intuiting as a question. And with that, I do not know the answer of. But what we're essentially doing is we're seeing what happens, from a detached perspective. What happens if we continue to remain detached from the divine? What is the evolutional path that will that will occur? And so that is what we do as the left hand practitioner. This does not mean that we advocate social chaos. This doesn't mean that we advocate sacrificing animals or people or anything like that. Now, there are those within the ranks of the left hand path who are very socially motivated, and their motivations go purely to this world. They're tied purely to this world. They're not tied to the spiritual aspect of seeing what occurs, as one separates from the creator. Their only interest is their, I'll say it is their white supremacist agenda, because that has infiltrated the left-hand path horribly. It has almost become what Satanism and or Luciferian Satanism has become about now, because they have co-opted it. Now, that social stuff is destructive, and there is some degree of a desire for them to see the human race annihilated. And they're annihilating their own race with the sort of COVID denial and the sort of anti-mask and their lack of discipline, which we do not see in the East. So the Western sphere, which is Europe, North America, South America, is very undisciplined.
Hmm.
And so what they're engineering is the extinction of their own race through white supremacy. And so this is not something that I am a fan of at all. I see the left-hand path as a spiritual path and one that is sort of sacred to me. And as such, I am able to converse with people who are Christian. I am able to converse with people who are Muslim. I am able to converse with people of all religions, knowing a little bit about a lot of knowing maybe just superficial things about all of them. I do not have the elitism that we see in like Lavean Satanism or Setianism. I do not feel that elitism does any justice to us. If we keep ourselves in a vacuum and we only work amongst our own, where's the creativity going to come from?
Exactly.
Creativity comes from encountering something different.
Yes.
Creativity comes from embracing something different.
Definitely, brother JMO. This is absolutely great. Now, my next question is, how does your perspective from the left-hand path see this post 2020 world and where we're going in the next 10 years? Where does the Iblis perspective come in on this in terms of what humanity's doing, all this stuff about racial and religious chaos that's going on, the COVID stuff that's happening? How do you see humanity in the next 10 years?
Humanity has a trial where, from the left hand path perspective, what we're doing is we're looking inward. We're going inward instead of going outward to the divine, right? We're going inward to what divinity might be within. I recommend humanity start doing some soul searching, because what I see is chaos, and chaos does not serve, the extinction of the species doesn't serve the anti-gods any more than it serves God, and it doesn't serve the infernal either. But that is exactly what is being engineered here. And I see a war going on within the United States, which is based on race. The those who are conservative wish to keep the racial hierarchy in place. Those who are not conservative are fighting that racial hierarchy, because in America we have a caste system, and it's a caste that's not only based on race, but based on wage. And the middle class are squeezed from both the lower class and the higher class who don't pay their fair share of taxes. So if things continue as they're going, things are going to get very violent. I can see that this will become a sort of third world hellhole, which it already is. There are places where people don't have clean drinking water, much like places in Africa that are underdeveloped, like Flint, Michigan. There's everything you can find in any other country going on that's horrible in the world. It's all here in America.
Thank you.
So how can we call ourselves a, civilized country? A country founded on certain ethics and principles. It's not founded on genocide and exploitation. This is what the conservatives are fighting against. They don't want to admit it. If they were to just admit it and say, yeah, we admit it and we're perpetuating it, things would be no different than they are now, because there are those who would still rally behind them knowing that. And that's what those who are conservative secretly are thinking anyway. They're deluding themselves if they think otherwise. So this is going to cause a split of a tale of two Americas, as Douglas Dietrich sees it. Um, we also have I predict that Putin is going to fall and that he is going to be taken out from within at some point. And the same thing with Xi Ping of China.
Winnie the
We,
Pooh.
yes. Now, when chaos ensues and wars break out, the ones who we're going to start to see more women taking action and fighting rather than being subjugated to this violence. And honestly, I think it's about time women take a stand, and people and women of color take a stand and say we're not going to be treated like shit anymore. I would like to see a future in which there is equity. Yeah, we're not all born equal. Yes, some people have more talents and can offer more than others, but we should all be treated equally. Yes, we're not all born equal. That's the Ayn Randism that Anton LaVey, preached, and that what do you call it? That asshole, oh my gosh, Joseph Peterson is parading around. But the truth of the matter is, just because they're just because we're not all born equal does not mean that we don't have a human right to be treated equally. Why treat someone who has a disability differently than someone who doesn't have a disability and give them less resources?
Thank you.
It's wrong. What makes us so we have a judgmental society where everyone's a judge, and that's what's going to be the fall of the Western Hemisphere. What I do see is the East taking over. I see the East is balanced. The East is more balanced. They have discipline. Their societies have been around for a long time. Now, what's going to fall with China is going to be the fact that they've adopted a Western idea, Marxism, communism. And by adopting that Western idea, they are, from my perspective, a part of the West now. Whereas a place like Japan is still true to its like culture, or Taiwan, they're true to their, Eastern culture, even though
J-Mo,
they modernized.
there's a lot of people from China, like a lot of the elite bloodlines that are mixing in with a lot of the people in the West that run the music industry, Hollywood, different like occult lineages. There's a lot of they have a lot of spouses from mainland China. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring it up, and that might be because they desire what they call the dragon bloodline.
That's it.
And of course, the dragon bloodline is of the East, it's of the Orient. And I do know that this is something that Douglas Dietrich is more qualified to speak of than I am. But from what I gather, is that those of a dragon bloodline may have been gifted from the great serpents, which I believe there were 9 in number. Great serpents, they were probably gifted the venom, and that was probably passed on through the blood generation to generation. This is why in the Japanese manga we have a very close attention to bloodlines and traits that are passed down through bloodlines,
Right.
because they realize and they know that 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 has a genetic change, that changes, that probably changed the genetics of those people and gave them certain access to certain abilities that most normal people wouldn't have.
Absolutely right, brother. And a shout out to our brother Douglas Dietrich, who I'll be with tomorrow with Team D. And a shout out to Daniel Arola because Daniel Arola told me that how the Europeans came to this country and they infected all of the native indigenous people with the smallpox and they killed them off with biowarfare. Now those same people are being decimated by this COVID because they refuse to get the vaccine. So it's all coming around in full circle.
Yes, yes, yes. And while the astrological occurrences mark the fall of the 250-year period of the old America, it does
Mhm.
not mark the fall of the new America that came after Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves.
Yes,
So the new America is going to be one of many colors, many cultures, and much respect to those who are white and who are willing to accept that and embrace it and embrace the change. But my condemnation to those who are holding on to white male supremacy, because I note that when with the white supremacy complex comes in adherence to male power and patriarchal dominance. We're in the age of Tiamat now. And so the female aspect is going to take over. We're going to see more women in positions of power. And if we're to succeed as a species, we need more female thinkers. We need more female scientists to be acknowledged. There are many of them out there, but they're not acknowledged. And the reason why they're not acknowledged is because there's that old white boy network that needs to be broken down.
it will. And it's interesting you bring that up because a lot of the Sufis refer to Allah as a she, and they would say it's this divine feminine energy that is the source of creation. And when they say Allah is the only reality, they would say that all creation on this earth, whether it's good or bad, no matter what path it is, it's all a manifestation of that perfect treasure, that creator that's trying to understand itself through itself. Now, the great Sufi master from Persia who lived in Baghdad, Mansur al-Hallaj, he called Iblis Sheikhul Anbiya, meaning the master of all of the sheikhs, because he was the one that was he worshipped Allah the most for 1,000 plus years. More than that, he bowed in every corner of the world and universe, and he was the most beautiful, leading the choirs and all that good stuff. So they believed that when he was tested by Allah, that I want you to bow before Adam, Iblis said, no, the only thing I see is you. I don't see anything else, and I refuse to bow to anything else but the creator itself. So a lot of people thought that in some of the Sufi circles, that it was Allah testing Iblis, knowing that that would be the answer since the creator knows everything. And then he deputized him to basically look after this world on his behalf. and to weed out the ones that are not worthy of enlightenment. That's why he's referred to as a grand sheikh, because he's the one that will have the ultimate gnosis. So what happens is it's like even in the Yazidi story, where the creator or Allah had deputized him on his behalf to watch over this or with this earth and its affairs, while the real creator itself has no concern with this world and what's going on here. So even in that Sufi perspective or Yazidi perspective, Iblis is still serving Allah or the Creator through following His will and doing what is going on here and making sure that those that are trying to get on that path of enlightenment are weeded out. So the wheat is separated from the chaff, making sure that the ones that are really about it, He's the one that opens the door for them so they can pass through that gate of enlightenment. But first, they have to prove themselves. So they would say in a lot of the Sufi circles, they say that Iblis is the most jealous lover of Allah. So anyone who tries to get close to the Creator, he, he will try to test them with temptation, with other things, with some different scenarios, because he doesn't want anyone to get close to the Creator as close as he is. So he will try to test you as the Sheikh al-Anbiya to see if is this person worthy of passing this test. And that's what the ultimate reality that I have seen too, that everything, my brother, whether you're on the left hand path, right hand path, it's all leading you back to the same source. And that's what is the ultimate reality is everything is a manifestation of that creator, where I tried myself, but I only found Allah. I tried to find Allah, only found myself.
That is true. And the interesting thing about it is, even if one takes a solipsistic perspective where one wants to become God, in and of itself, to become God, a you are actually an expression of that divinity that wishes to create its own universe in and of itself through yourself. And again, even if I believe my will, even if my ego makes me believe my will is my own and that my desire to separate from the divine is my own, or if my desire to fight against the divine is my own, how do I know that's not the divine who wants me to do that, who designed me to do
Exactly.
that? So in
You
the
know,
end, it all does come full circle.
JMO, it's funny because there's a Sufi sheikh. His name is Imam Jafar al-Sadiq. And he said, perhaps you think God has not created a humanity other than you. Indeed, he has created thousands upon thousands of mankind's, and you are the last among them. When asked if there were other life forms on other planet, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq replied, like this world, there are 70,000 other planets, with each of their peoples believing they are alone in this universe. And what he refers to here is that sometimes, Brother Jamo, we think that, okay, I'm an initiate of this path or I'm choosing this path. Sometimes it's the creator that has chosen you to walk that path, just like how it says that even to this world, to this day, Allah and Iblis are basically on very close terms, and everything happens as they coordinate with each other, because nothing happens without the permission of the true primordial source creator. So Iblis to this day is still serving Allah from the occult Sufi perspective. And there is no, and it's us, the human beings, that have to realize that who we are, what is the potential that we have, what is the aspect of fate and free will, and how can we use that to make this world better? Because it also says in the Quran that Allah does not change the condition of the people unless they help themselves.
This is true, and we have to realize that we are walking expressions of the divine, and that, even if I could be Satan, I mean, I myself would consider myself a Satanist, but, I can say, I'm going to kill God, I'm going to go to war with God, we in the forces of the Infernal will go to war with God and kill it. Still, you have to understand that that desire within you comes from God.
Yeah,
Ex-
it's all that one being. Everything else is an illusion. That's the funny thing
exactly.
about it.
It's experiencing different aspects of itself in every possible scenario that can exist. And that's why I say whatever simulation this being is that we call, the ultimate reality it is learning. It is constantly changing and is constantly in a state of becoming, as Brother Douglas says.
He's absolutely right because right before I spoke to you, I was speaking to one of my friends, and he's also a follower of Sufism, and he says that what we know as the Creator or Allah, it laughs, it loves, it cries, and it goes through all of those feelings that a human does because it's the aspect of the divinity experiencing itself through itself. So I'm a manifestation of that being in the right perspective. You're a manifestation of that being from the left perspective. Even on the Kabbalistic tree, you cannot have order and chaos without the creation of Almighty God that cannot exist or by itself, because then each would lose its purpose. So that's the beauty of this duality that we're in. And sometimes I think, even myself from the right hand path, and I think everything is perfect the way that it is, the way the creator set it up, in terms of having Iblis here in this realm, that's the guardian of this realm or the gatekeeper of this realm, and he who is found worthy in this realm through their religious practices, because it's the heart. It's about ultimately the true initiation is from the heart. So even he knows that those that are praying 5 times a day in the mosque, but they're lying and cheating people and they're doing other people. So they know what you're doing is not true. Same people that go to the church on Sundays, but they're not truly about that. So those that are really pure, it's about the purity of the heart, and you get that initiation from inside. That's when the eye of providence or the eye of Allah will allow Iblis to open the door so you can pass through this realm.
Yes, and I give a scenario just to the listener to contemplate. How do we know that the left-hand path, practitioner who turns his back on God and decides to embrace the worldly and move away from the divine? How do we know that they aren't scouts of the divine to see what is going on in the outer realms of its own creation?
That's
How do
it.
we
That's it.
So even those of the left hand will be used and serve a purpose to the creator, because still having that essence of the creator, no matter how far removed one is. Let's say I am, venturing around Cthulhu and these outer gods, and I'm learning about them and I'm working with them. Then that is our God learning about those other gods through us.
That's it. I mean, that's how simple it is, but it sounds so complex for those that won't get it.
Yes, and the thing is, when it comes down to it, there is only one path. So there's no left hand or right hand. It's
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 just
all
one straight path, and it's funny because in the Sufi perspective, they also have these musicians. They express their love for God through the different hymns and musics. And one of them said, "You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. If Allah is going to punish me on the day of judgment, let me just drink all the alcohol I can now, and then I can answer for myself later." Because he knows that no matter what it is, no matter which road you're taking, at the end, it's all taking you to the same destination. When a mineral becomes a plant, plant becomes an animal, animal becomes a man goes to angel, and then angel goes back to God, which when people die in the Islamic funerals, they would say, "To God we belong, and to Him we shall return." And they tell you that everything in this life, Brother Jamo, it's an illusion. Just like how you see the whirling dervish, he's just whirling around in that infinite reality, because he knows that all of the stuff that's here, the racial and religious divisions about who's right and who's wrong and which left or right, all that stuff, they know it's all a game in the end. The ultimate reality is the
yeah.
creator who is testing you, whether it's through Iblis or through others that continue to serve him to this day.
And we also have to look at it as a game. This is a game of evolution. And so these wars are necessary. War is an expression of love as well. We with to maintain these bodies that we have, there's violence going on a cellular level. Violence is all around us. This is also why, if we look at the sort of Roman aspect of Lucifer, Venus, we look at let's say we look at Athena, which is Lucifera in the Roman. When we look at those aspects, note that it's love and war, love and war, love and war. Mars and Venus are inseparable. So love is war. Love is a war when it comes down to it. And that is the sort of paradox. And so it's as Brother Douglas says, that his God is a God of war. It is, because war is love.
That's absolutely right. That is
And if
the
you
absolute truth.
and each, we're animals that need to live off of and consume other things. We have to consume living plants that are living beings. We have to consume other animals that are living beings. And how do we know plants, we look at plants as consuming light. Well, what if the lights are beings? I mean, I know that I'm being facetious here, but you get what I'm saying. Everything has to be consumed. It consumes itself. It's like the Ouroboros. It's a self-consuming being, but in its self-consumption, it's changing. It's something of such a higher dimension that we can't wrap our minds around it.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. Because even when the Ouroboros spins around, and the serpent, when it sheds its skin, it becomes better, more wiser, more stronger. That's why even you have these different perspectives of who, what, where, and why in the Islamic world, where they tell you about the angels and the jinns and the different realms, and you have Jibril, you have Iblis, you have the prophets, all, and everything is divinely interconnected. And you do get put through the ringer sometimes, teach you a lesson, and then at the same time you'll have moments of happiness, and you'll have moments of grief. It's all a complex reality that this divine treasure is trying to accomplish by through itself and trying to understand itself through us, while we think we've been put in this prison planet and we're suffering, and we need to just get out of here, the simulation within a simulation. Like the Sufi Imam said, that there are 70,000 other places where the people think that they are the only life forms in this universe.
So that's the interesting thing about the simulation is that, we're all avatars made by a being that wants to play a game. So it's like
That's it.
when you play a video game, you're playing a character. The character doesn't know that it's being played by you. The character doesn't know who's controlling it. And so we are like those characters that we play in video games. And the controller would be that which created us, the divine.
That's it. And it's funny because I was thinking and I was having this discussion with a friend that why is the divine putting us through all of this misery and all the stuff that we see in this realm? Why are we here? Why are we stuck in this day-to-day repetitive cycle? And he would say that you're just being tested. You're always being duly tested and tried. And if you're found worthy, then the Sheikh Anbiya, who is Iblis, the gnosis of it all, he'll open the door for you and he'll allow you to go to Allah, because he's the one that Allah has placed here to weed out the ones that get it and open the door of enlightenment to them. And the ones that don't, he's been authorized by the Creator to put them through the ringer.
Yes, yes. And I conclude with that. All paths lead to one, my friend.
That's it, brother Jamo. That's it. And it's I see in the next 10 to 20 years, like you said, humanity has to make a choice. You have to realize, like you said, my brother, that everything is ultimately one. And in the Arabic, they say Allah, that everything is one. Everything in this reality, my brother, it's all there. You're always being duly tested and tried, but at the same time, it comes to a conclusion about your heart. Like one of my friends told me that when he went to Mecca, in the holy city of Mecca in the east, to do the pilgrimage, he felt like somebody had taken his heart out and weighed it on a scale. He felt that that's where he was being initiated. And He said when he opened his eyes, when that initiation was done, and they put him through the eye of providence in like a metaphorical sense. He said everywhere he looked, he saw Iblis. And I said, what realization did you come to? He said, it's just like what we said, that Allah has placed him here to weed out the ones that get it, open the door for them, and the ones that don't, continue to put them through that repetitive cycle until they get it. And all the Sufi sheikhs, they know this reality, like some of the big ascended masters in Sufism. Some of them might talk about it, but others have taken like a vow of silence that they know what's going on, but they won't say anything.
Yes, yes. I thank you for that, my brother.
Thank you, Brother JMO. And do you have any concluding thoughts for our audience?
Just find the divinity within yourself. It's there. You just have to unlock it. Whether you choose to go the left hand path, whether you choose to move towards the infernal or the angelic, whether you choose to separate from the divine or whether you choose to become one with the divine, the outcome is the same. You will go back to being what you are, divine.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. And with that, my brothers and sisters, we conclude part two with Brother JMO. Thank you.
Thank you.